Okay, good afternoon. Welcome to game 16 of the Winter Matchplay. This game, I'm Paul Allan, by the way, Grandmaster. This game is going to feature Phil Robertshaw and Lewis Mackay. Phil is going to start. They're both currently 11-4. Lewis has a spread advantage of 119, which could be crucial. Austin Shin is also waiting in the wings. He's also 11-4 and a couple of 100 points further back, so he's not out of it. There's only three people that can reasonably, well, they have any chance of winning the tournament. Right, Phil has drawn a blank, very lucky. Some awkward tiles with it. He's got PVY RAD. He'll be checking that there just isn't a bonus. But even without a bonus, there's lots of potential there. And he should build a bonus next time. He's got, you could play something like Vary, Hardy, possibly. That would leave the V. Vardy's obviously the move. I think he's played it already. Has he? Quackle likes it. Vardy meaning verdict, keeping P blank. And score. No, sorry, I'm just seeing on Quackle, with Jessica Patrese putting up for us. I think Vardy would be the move here. He'll just be checking that there isn't a bonus. He'll probably be mentally trying to make that other fouls. And possibly other constants. It's easy to miss out to assume that that's got to be another foul in the blank. It's got to be Vardy, I think. Oh, that's surprising, Davey. I think that's a slight mistake. Surprising. PR is a bit more bonusy than just P, but even still, I think Vardy from D4 or equivalent D8 would have been the move. But it's okay. Unless he gets unlucky, Davey should bonus, but he has picked Z. Pay for that. Right, on to Lewis. QX, usually considered good tiles by beginners. Not so great for grandmasters. The X is usually good, but early on in the game, there really aren't many places to put the X, so it's not as valuable as mid and late game. Q is always considered, well, nearly always considered a negative tile. Lewis can simply dump off QI and Ed and die. Probably, if you were to play that, he'd play it at the I column because he's got the I to play next to it himself. It's likely filled with because we know that. He can play mix. I think it's got the QI. I think it should be on the right hand side. That's slightly surprising. He's played it on the left, as far as I can see. I'd have played it on the right because I kept an eye. But that may have worked out in his favour because Phil has an eye. Anyway, he's got the Z to score with. If you pick up non-bonusy tiles, you definitely want to pick something like the Z. At least you can score with it and then bonus. There might well be a bonus with that. I don't see it offhand. The floaters aren't very helpful in V and a Y. That would have been a slight advantage of playing Vardy. It would have given extra floating tile. Zip rock. Eight, which I'm not going to give away. But it would play here. Two ID is not impossible, extremely unlikely. Cards has been played. Yes, it has. Fairly reasonable move, keeping PIR blank, very bonusy. Although the board's not great for bonuses at the moment, so that could be awkward for him. Back to Lewis. Decent tiles, decent mixture of high scores, low scores, vowels, and consonants, but not a great board. There's the acid hook, a 6-letter word onto the O of cause could be good if it's possible. Other than that, there's not a great deal going here. You could play moxa and acid. And is indeed moxa. It does give away quite a lot, but I think we forced into it. Didn't have many other options. But Imperial is an obvious 7 for Phil, but the problem is where to put it. He does have the M to play through. He has a Y, B, another A. He does have a bonus through the M. Again, I'm not going to give it away. Which you should spot if nothing else. Difficult stage in a tournament. You probably get most relaxed in the middle of a tournament and you get flowing with bonuses. It can be a bit nervy early on and at a crucial stage like this. So bonus misses are more likely than might be other times. It can be very frustrating when you've got an obvious bonus and not an obvious place to put it, and that can put you under pressure. Yeah, I think there's just the one bonus available as far as we can see. Those are Imperials, obviously. I'll say obviously, and I don't really mention that because it's a sub bonus of the M. And there's a third one, Airplay. Oh, that's interesting. Airplay and Acidy. So I didn't see that one. But Primetal would be the most. Not sure whether that's to do with animals or clergy, possibly both. So I suspect he's seen Imperials and Acids and he's looking for something better. So if he spots Primetal, he'll play it. If he doesn't, he'll probably play Imperials and Acids. If you weren't to see the bonus, there's a reasonable score to be had next to Moxa, left-hand side of Moxa and bonus lead, but you definitely want to play the bonus here. Pila is Crackle's fourth choice from D1. That has the advantage of setting up a 9-time and a nice hook off but again, distinctly inferior to the bonus. What we might be doing here is just mentally going through the alphabet with different vowels and the M. And T being quite far down in the alphabet, you may take a while to get to it. And even then, it's possible to miss under pressure, but I suspect you should see it. Looking ahead to Lewis's rack, not great, regardless of what Phil does. There's not much Phil can infer about Moxa. Well done, as far as I can see. The letters to find it out, but he's got the best play, which is all that matters. Too long to get through them. So, okay. Right, Lewis, T's, duplicate, triplicate, duplicate I's, and triplicate T's. Not usually very good, but he does have an H. It's quite a flexible tile. I certainly want to get rid of the at least one T and one I, if not two Ts. He has the likes of Tint leaving hit. Scores virtually nothing. Tipped is possible. Through the P, it would give away the triple column on the left. I don't see a great move here. You just got to keep control of your rabbit and not give away too much positioning. Quackle likes hint, leaving double T. Yeah, fair enough. 21 points. But he's gone for Titan. Nothing wrong with that. Decent leave. Bonus potential if he gets lucky. So, Phil, nice lead at this point. What is he? 52 ahead. Too early to really adjust your play too much. Now, the thing is about Cos and Davy, they've kind of restricted the bottom of the board. So a lot of them will be on the top for now. It's quite a good play from Phil, as far as I could see. How it's flawed being played. I don't think there's an outstanding play there. It was one of Quackle's top choices, and I can't see much wrong with it. It's very quick play from Lewis, an excellent right here. Easier ones you see, but nuns are always difficult, especially under separation tiles, so that's excellent play. I gather the audio isn't the best. I will close everything else. Hopefully that might make a difference. Sorry, bear with me. I was closing everything else in case that makes a difference to the audio quality. Right, excellent play from Lewis. Has gotten right back into the game. In fact, a good lead. There we go. I might be speaking rubbish, but at least you can hear me. Okay. Now, unfortunately, there's a hot spot for Phil at the top right, but he doesn't have either an A, a U, etc., O that would go in front of the R. That's when you usually consider yourself very unlucky. You can't play Brit and R. And he may want to restrict that. Play the likes of Burr, Wirt. Is that Twackle suggestion, or is that a play from Bill? It's a play. So he's played Wirt. No great score, but it restricts a potential huge score from Lewis in the top right-hand corner. Another decent rack for Lewis, although there aren't that many places to play it. He's got the likes of Deputy, decent bonus potential there, but it's not very bonusy board. And Phil has cleverly restricted Lewis's options on the top right. Yeah, I did see the Duvertine potential if there was a floating B, which there is, but of course the Z gets in the way. You could play Way, W-E-Y, for 29, even tuned. It's possible. Oh, that's much better. Where's that? Cozy. Yes, looking cozy. There we go. There we go. Let's see I was looking at it, but Lewis saw it, of course. Yeah, if you see that, it's a pretty obvious play. Right, Phil, nice balance rack, good bonus potential. But is there a bonus? There are a few eights with the appropriate floating tile. 4, in fact. I'm not giving away the fact that they might be available. It seems unlikely, given that there's only a partially floating R, a floating P, A, B, Y starter, T. So it'll be a case of retaining bonus potential here, playing off OB, for example, would be good. If WOB were a word, that would be ideal. You can play WAB. I don't see a huge score available. Yeah, he has black. Bypass is possible. Quite like that, although it does give away the A column. So quite like that. Rides is quite a strong lead, although the board isn't particularly conducive to bonuses at the moment. Lewis with a similar problem. He's got a 23-point lead, so score isn't a huge factor at the moment. He has certainly bonus potential, although he's got duplicate E's and I's. Guillotine. Is an orphan at the moment, as far as I can see. Are there any eights? He'll be checking that. Although it's such a high probability set that Lewis would be able to figure out the TRP combinations pretty quickly, I think. Question is, how much bonus potential should he keep? How much turnover? And how does he want to adjust the board? Quackle likes light 3F. Yeah, it does absolutely nothing to the board, keeps it pretty much as it is, but it does keep timed, which is good. Another option is to open it up a bit more, with the likes of buy, keeping the same leave. It would give you the D poke, although it's quite easily blocked with the likes of wire, or perhaps a 6-letter word off the E. See, this isn't Crackle's strength. It will just see timed as a good lead, regardless of the board position, whereas a human will want to kind of make the board more bonus conducive at the same time, even if it means sacrificing a bit of score. So very tricky position, near bonus. How do you want to change the board? How do you want to control the board? Not an obvious play that's best here, I wouldn't say. Quackle definitely likes light, but I'm not sure. The board is likely to stay unfriendly towards bonuses if you play light. What are other options? He could play Ray, 3M. Again, that does very little for the board. Just keeps a strong lead. IR through IR through that blocks the R and it blocks the P, so that isn't very good at all. I'd rather play light. Pi is too easily blocked and scored from. Gel would leave 2 eyes, which is horrible. So given that, it might be best just to go with Quackle. Okay, he showed something completely different, more turnover. That wouldn't be my play, although I can see why he's done it. There's no point in keeping lots of bonus potential when the board isn't conducive to it. So that's not unreasonable. Phil, again, a very bonusy rack. Doesn't have a bonus. So nothing wrong. I think we played pretty quickly because it's a fairly straightforward bonus. Played Volunteered. There were also Oriides. Unfortunately, it gives away quite a lot back, but that was unavoidable, whether you put it on the right hand side of the board or the left. But at least he's got it. Nice rack for Lewis. It's worked out. It's worked out very nicely. It's strange how that sometimes happens. He didn't keep much bonus potential, and yet he's got the bonus. Sometimes you keep rates, and you pick the very two tiles that can screw up. Nice 5 that you've left. Ination would be the scoring play of Renda. It does give away Inations. And how many S's are left? Only 1 S played. It's a completely fresh rack for Phil. So will Lewis play the bold Ination? I'll really sacrifice to get a score. If he does sacrifice, there's quite a lot to be scored potentially anyway. So have you played it? He has. He played it with probably the less bold positioning on the left hand side. Very reasonable. I mean, Jigs, for example, with the X could have been a huge comeback score. Right. If you do want tiles to mess up your bonus, you'd want something like this where you can score with it. Maybe a bonus, saying nothing. There are 2 8s. And one of them is available. And I'm going to take it that one of them is being played. It has indeed. Excellent play there. 4 days. Excellent play. Excellent score of 98, was it? Now that's interesting. That obviously, if Lewis had played the other nation, that wouldn't have been playable at all. Although he could have played Jogs, for example, and got right back in it. As it is, Lewis has got 2 U's, which is pretty awkward, and he's got a 49-point deficit. There looks to be an obvious play of Duke here off the J, but he won't be diving into it. There's also Irk. There's still a hot spot through the ER in the middle right. But I'd be surprised if it isn't Duke here. 45, I think. Putting right back in it. And it's just what we wanted. A nice climax to the end of the tournament, a close game. If one of these players were to win with a narrow margin, it would set it up nicely for the final game. And not forgetting Austin Shin, he's not out of the picture altogether. He might need quite a big win to keep himself in contention. He definitely wants to at least one of his youths here. Oh, Juku. Yes, that's what I'd overlooked Juku. That's my bad. Still has Lewis, it would seem, unless he wants to keep you. There'd be no reason to do that. The Q's play. So has he played Duke? He has indeed. I'm not sure why he prefers to be. He maybe likes the K for Irk. That's possible. But I think Juku would have been the play. And it seems to he missed it there. Right, back to Phil. Nice balance. Up and down bonus. You can't complain about that. Although it's a bonusy rack, it's not a very bonusy board. Although there is a bonus, if you should spot it. There's a 7, and maybe 8s. There are 2 8s with the required floaters. They are not available on this board. But the 7 is playable for quite a decent score. It's going to be 86, I think. My counting is notoriously unreliable. And that would put Phil in a very strong position. I think it's been played. That's a good move. 86 it is. Sorry, not played yet. I'm just seeing it come up in Quackle. That usually means it's been played, although sometimes it's just been shown as an option. This could be a crucial move. Matuka's says 97% win, says Quackle. Not only does it score, it restricts the board, it restricts Lewis's comeback potential. I'm not sure about 97%, but it'll win a very high percentage of the time. Okay, I'm told that he's thinking about it. Maybe he's not sure about Matuka's. What is a Matuka? Zillion biting fly. So it's not an everyday word. It's something you could potentially get mixed up with. But if there's any doubt, I think it's worth the risk. It will all but win in the game. And there isn't an outstanding alternative. I'm just seeing Phil's expression here. I think he's going to go for it. Costa is quite a high scoring move. Costa being about 04. Excellent goal. Assuming he's playing Matukas. Something else. It's being held. It's being held. I'm sure Lewis will know it, but is it worth the 5 points? Because Lewis will know, unless he's got a big comeback here, he's in a very. He has challenged it, and it's stayed on. That's an even stronger position. 101 point deficit is going to be very, very difficult to come back from, especially with the program he actually has. And this makes it very interesting overall. Assuming Phil wins by 100, it would be Phil would have about an 80-point lead going into the final game over Lewis. So let's not count our chickens with this game because Lewis isn't finished yet. But it's going to be very, very difficult. Still having just picked another nice draw. There is a big score for Lewis here, though, available in the middle right, and that could be why he's kept the K. That could work. That's probably why he played Duke instead of Duke. He certainly wouldn't have missed Duke. He may have missed Duco, although he may have even chosen to deliberately keep the K. And it might work out for him. In fact, he has played Calf, big score. And if we were to bonus, then there's potential. I'll take Lovings. It's Phil's rack. Lots of potential, even if there isn't something available at the moment. Obviously makes solving. And there are 3 beats. The problem with Kerf is it's blocked the E of the second E of Jeripigo for Lewis. So his bonus, his being Lewis, his bonus possibilities are being much restricted here. There's an R floater, but that would be a single. There's a B and an E. There's a U in third. So the board is closing down, and Phil still has a 53-point lead. 13 tiles left, I think. So just make out. They look quite bonusy. Let's see what Quackle says as options. Oh, solving. Does solving fit? Primatals. And now the thing is, if I hadn't even seriously considered that, that's my bad. Now, if he'd been further behind, if he'd been behind at all, he might well go for solving at primatals. But unless he's very sure of primatals, it's unlikely to be played because there's so many other ways to win the game rather than risking the hook. So if you were, say, 80 points behind, it might be worth a punt if you didn't know the hook. But given his lead, unless he's very sure of it, I'd be surprised if he plays it. What other options does he have? He's got Vice on, K15. Yeah, making a nations. That would also restrict the E. It would restrict the R slightly. So a lot to be said for that. It's difficult to see Bison losing. Login would restrict a triple from A15. Veggio doesn't do a great deal. I suspect Bison would be the play, other than solving, of course, which I'm assuming he's not going to go for. There's no particular mileage in keeping, like playing VO and keeping lings. I think that's a mistake a lot of low rate players will make. They think they want to keep lings. He simply needs to keep scoring. I mean, Bison will put him, what is it, 88 points ahead. Has he played Lingo? He has. Lingo for 26. The good thing about that is, compared with Bison, is it means that any bonus through the E will be a single. That is, unless it manages to hook it in Asians. So you're restricting Lewis to a single play, unless it goes with a U or some strange slotted in position. And this bonus that isn't doubled or tripled is unlikely to be enough at this point. 8 unseen tiles and a lead of 79. I think Lewis has a punch for a bonus. Hope he gets it and hope it isn't blocked. That's a lot of things to hope for. Now, his other option is to give up on the game. He had 119 points of a deficit, of a lead rather, going into this game. So if he loses by, say, 60, he will be just 1 point behind on the spread going into the final game. So he might be pragmatic, he may give up on the game, and he may just attempt to cut his losses, hopefully lose by, say, 50 or 60, and then it sets it up for the final game. It's something I hate doing, but sometimes that's the best way to win the tournament. You can win the war rather than the battle. Okay, let's assume he's still going for the win. I'm not sure what he can possibly fish for. Looking at Phil's rack, we can see that it's actually an S that's left in the bag. Lewis isn't to know that, although if he wants to win the game, he's got to be optimistic and hope that the tile he desperately wants to be in the bag actually is. Although I don't really see what he can fish for here. Even if it is a fish, say through the E, it would be very easily blockable. Phil would know his rack, so I think he's going to be more pragmatic and going to keep the spread down. Nothing huge from Quackle here. Pound is possible. Pooh is possible at 11. Keeping Rind. I11, making UH. Sorry, making PE, UR, and HE. Yeah, that's pretty reasonable. He'll quite likely have an out there and he can restrict his loss. That would take him to, what, 47 points behind. He's going to likely lose by about 60, 50 or 60, which would keep it nicely poised for the final game. So I think there's a lot to be said for PUH at I11. Pound at O11. Through the O of Jeripigo. Yeah, that's reasonable. Keeps HIR. At this point, Lewis can go through the permutations. He can think, well, if I pick the A, what I'm going to go out with HIR, if I pick the E, what if I pick the O, the S, or the B. Same with Pooh, you can work out. There's only 5 different combinations rather than 8 as there might be. That makes it slightly easier. Time-wise, Lewis has got 7 minutes, Phil's got 5. It seems pretty good time management. There's no point in having lots of time left when you need an error. It's been very well played so far. The only mistake really is Phil not playing Lingo, not playing Solving Lingo, but he didn't need to do it. Lingo's going to win. Although he might regret it if he loses the tournament on spread. That's one about Nigel Richards would just have played Primatoles and Solving, and he'd probably won by 150, and then pretty much won the tournament by that. Lewis has gone with what I might have mentioned he's gone with. Played Pooh, the score, and he's likely to be able to go out. I'm just trying to think if Phil were to phone without losing the game, probably not. He can play almost anything, but he doesn't want to be sloppy here because spread is probably going to be crucial. 47 points ahead. If it stayed at 47, he'd have a 25-point deficit to go into the final game with. Let's not forget Austin Shin is also in contention. He was 367 points behind Lewis before this game. And of course, Lewis is going to lose spread here. So if Austin has a big win, or even a reasonable win, he'll still be in contention for the final game. And as I understand, I'm not an expert on computer pairings. I think, assuming Austin win, he he would be paired up against Phil for the final game. But Lewis would still be in it. There may even be tactics here. Lewis might want to avoid Phil or Austin. There's a nice move available here of Venus at J14. Which is what's being played. I think that's a musical instrument, the Vina. Yeah, an Indian stringed instrument. Sanskrit, apparently. So it's an 81-point lead. And Lewis will be able to go out, presumably. Sundry. Maybe a lot better than that. Can't see anything too exciting here. Yeah, Sundry is possible. Better is Grinds. It's pretty much unmissable. I suspect Grinds is going to come down at some point. It has, I think. And I think we have a result. Phil has won by 57. Yeah, 57. Well done, Phil. Excellent play. Only slight error. I'm sure many of us would have done. Lewis also played pretty well. Isn't a 5-point advantage over Phil. Win behind. I'm not sure if we have an update from Austin's game, but regardless, it'll be set up very nicely for the final game, which will begin at about 17:40. Chris Hawkins will take you through that game. I hope you all watch, and I hope you enjoyed this one. And bye for now.